सामने से देखना।
Sir, we are now streaming on Facebook, and please let me know when to start Vande Mataram.
Just wait. रोज ही वंदे मातरम शुरू करवा देते हैं। केशव, you can start.
We will do it with folded hands.
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam, Sufalam, Malayaj Sheetalam, Shasya Syamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram. Shubhra-jyotsna pulakitayaminim Pullakusumita dhrumadala-shobhinim Suhasinim Sumadhura-bhashinim Sukhadam Varadam Mataram Vande Mataram Vande
भारत माता की जय।
जय। अभिषेक जी प्लीज स्टार्ट। आप म्यूट पे हैं अभिषेक जी।
Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to the webinar organized by the IBC group of Bharatiya Vitta Salakar Samiti. Today, the topic of discussion of this webinar is professional opportunities in the current scenario. As we all know that in last few months, IBC has been a matter of lot of debate, and since the COVID times have set in, the lot of impact on the IBC code itself. Back in March, we had the notification which raised the threshold limit for defaults. Then there was a discussion about the IBC ordinance. And as in our last webinar also, there was a lot of apprehensions as to how this ordinance is going to be, what are the impact, what will it look like. And now we are sitting in the time when we have the ordinance, we are in, certain applications have been barred from being filed, and we also have the higher threshold limit of the defaults. So as professionals, where we have started doing IBC practice since last 2-3 years, there is a lot of questions in everyone's mind as to what is going to be the future of this practice, what are the professional opportunities that are going to come for the IPs, for lawyers, for CAs. So we had seen that a lot of discussion has already happened on the legal implication of the IBC amendment and the notification, but very few things have been said about the professional opportunities. So with this background in mind, we have organized this today's topic where we have with us our distinguished panelists, Shri Puneet Agarwal ji, Shri GP Madan ji, Shri Sumit Bansal ji, and Shri Manoj Anand ji, who are going to give their insights on what they feel as to the professional opportunities that remain in the IBC field, and will try to answer all your apprehensions, questions which remain in your mind as to the future of this practice. So with this, I first welcome Shri Puneet Agarwal ji to throw some light on these aspects. Puneet ji, please.
I think we should first have guidance from Rohit ji. Let's have a welcome address from Rohit ji before I start. Rohit ji, please.
Thank you, Puneet ji. I am happy to see all the distinguished IBC group members on the dais today. and all the learned members, distinguished panelists are from BVSS in-house only. And I welcome all of you in this very good discussion webinar on the issue of the IBC. And we have with us our advisor of the IBC group, CS Advocate GP Madanji. We have the convener of this IBC group, Advocate Puneet Agarwalji. Co-conveners, we have Manoj Anandji and CA Advocate Abhishek Gargji. All these names, if you see, they are working on the ground. They are the part of the workforce which works on the ground and know the real situations in the market. And we have very young, dynamic, our member Sumit Bansalji, who is also contributing in the newsletter group. And we have our General Secretary Vipin Agarwalji. The thing is that the today issue is, I think, very much relevant. And when we say the opportunities for the professional in the IBC in the current scenario, and the scenario, you know, when we talk the current scenario, it is the change scenario. This is not the scenario as which was prevalent on 22nd of March 2020. But when we are talking on 11th of July 2020, the scenario has changed. I remind a thing once. I used to give the example, and today the example is very appropriate. Suppose a train is going towards one direction and we want to run the train on the opposite direction. Then it is very difficult that you can take the U-turn of the train which is moving on a high speed to a direction. And if you want to take the U-turn for a train, then it will take very long U-turn. And it has to slow down first and slowly and gradually, and we need to take the U-turn. Now, what happened if you take the U-turn immediately? It will be a steep U-turn, and there could be many, you know, situation which may not be the happy situation. Now, this nature has given us forcefully a U-turn, and that is a very steep U-turn. And to cope up with the situation of this steep U-turn, if it could have been the slow U-turn, or it could have been given us the sufficient time. Now, I think after more than 3 months' time, the situation has totally changed. We need to rediscover, we need to reschedule, we need to discuss again and again what is in the IBC, what it makes the 1 crore limit impact on us, how much time it will remain like this. Although if you see the disputes are increasing day by day, there are a lot of, defaults which are there, but all defaults are not coming to the ambit of the IBC, and there are many more issues in the IBC. As I am not the expert on the subject, but I know the market situation that it is changing very quickly and fastly. So I congratulate the IBC group of the BVSS for hosting this particular webinar. I know that there will be technical discussions which are going to take place. And apart from the technical discussion, the main issue, the theme which has been given, the professional opportunities in the changing scenario, that I think everyone is here to learn from it. And with this, thank you for joining this webinar, all the members of the BVSS and professional friends. I welcome you all for in this webinar. Thank you very much. Over to Abhishek ji.
Thank you, Rohit ji. So let's start with today's discussion. Puneet ji, request you to please take over the discussion from here and throw some light on the professional opportunities in the current scenario.
Thank you, Abhishek ji. President BVSS, Shri Rohit ji, my mentor and Secretary BVSS, Shri Vipin ji, advisor of our group, very, very dynamic, ever smiling and always guiding me, GP Madan sir. My colleagues in the IBC group, co-conveners of the group, Abhishek ji, very young and dynamic advocate, CA turned lawyer, Manoj ji, a more seasoned professional who is doing very well in IBC, and my friend in the newsletter group, Sumit ji, and all my senior professionals, professional colleagues, younger members of the profession, and all the dear members from industry who have joined us in this seminar. A very good afternoon to all of you. These are very interesting times. These are times when we stop and pause nature has given that pause. And we are rediscovering ourselves, every aspect of human being. When we say human being, I'm using it as two different words, human and the way they are living. Every aspect of them is being rediscovered, whether it be the ways in which nature function or it be the way we professionals have been functioning. And we cannot remain untouched from that. And over this whole scenario, IBC was a big question mark. When it all began, we all started thinking that in such kind of a scenario, where there would be frequent defaults, and there would be defaults which are in one way outside the control of the person who could have, at the time of originally entering into a contract, could not have perceived those defaults. So these are something which are totally beyond a person's control. So can IBC and should IBC at all be scrapped? Should IBC be delayed? Should it be paused? What should be the modality in which this should be done? And there was even prior to this scenario, discussions were going on because of the clogging of the NCLT with the heavy number of cases, primarily because we had a very low limit at which a person could have approached the NCLT with a case under IBC. A very interesting, I would say, reason was given for keeping the threshold at just 1 lakh rupees. And it was stated that if a person cannot pay even 1 lakh rupees, that means he is definitely not solvent. It was a very good economic reason, I would say. And it actually, IBC has become an extremely successful law, a very important law for all of us professionals after its coming in 2016. And it has just been 4 years and it has been quite successful in changing the whole landscape of the financial market, the whole landscape of the debtor-creditor relationship. This has really been a game changer. And we have extremely I would say, executed examples of Bhushan Steel type cases. And the figures which are there are really encouraging. But the question which was there looming in the minds of the policy makers and those who were implementing it, we all professionals, we used to face it every day when we used to go to tribunal. We found that there was no substantive argument which was taking place. There was no substantive decision making which was taking place. And the whole system seemed to be like running on just the sheer number of cases which are being listed before the benches every day. And one biggest contributor was the lower limit of 1 lakh rupees, and the other contributor was the many number of cases which are being filed by the home buyers, primarily because the culture in our real estate sector has been to delay the projects for whatever reasons. I'm not going into the reasons, but there were huge delays in the execution of the projects, and the real estate market was in any case not in a very good shape. So even those who have invested in that market or who actually wanted to buy flats in the real estate sector, they were unable to really either take deliveries or they were delayed, so they wanted to cancel the contract. So IBC gave them a good window to arm twist the builders and to really get back their money, whatever they had paid originally and which they were not getting the flats or whatever units in return of that. So, but the whole system as a result was clogging. So these were the problems which were encountering the NCLT or the whole IBC system even prior to this pandemic coming into being. So before moving further to professional opportunities part, I want to show you a few figures which show that how big an opportunity IBC has given to us. So let me share my screen and I will show to you. If you could just see this data, let me increase the size also. You would see that this, a reply was filed by the minister, and it was stated that 18,000 and odd cases were filed in IBC 2016 till the end of June 2019. So look at the number of cases which were filed. So it became a very important law for us professionals to deal with. It really became a very important piece of practice area for us. Now, if you kindly see, what are the number of cases admitted? It was 2,173 out of this 18,000 cases. So what it shows is around 11% of the cases were actually admitted at the end of June 2019. And if you take this figure of admitted cases by March 2020, this figure became around 3,700, out of which 300 cases were agitated in appeal level, etc. Few of them were withdrawn. In 220 cases, resolution plan was accepted, and in 900 cases, the companies went into liquidation. 2,170 cases survived at the end of that period. What I am trying to show you by these figures is, look at the sheer number of cases, and number of cases show the number of opportunities. Now, what we have to understand is that these figures ultimately generate work for the professionals. But the first thing that has happened now is that when I mentioned that there are heavy number of cases which are clogging the NCLT, the discussion happened by the insolvency committee, and it was decided, and it was recommended, rather they cannot decide. So it was recommended that for operational creditors, let us have a lower limit of 5 lakh rupees. And for the creditors who are financial creditors, let us have a limit of 50 lakh rupees. And the third recommendation that was made was that in respect of class creditors like home buyers, what happens is, let me explain this in a little this way, that when one person is unable to get his flat, but let us assume that the builder is almost nearing completion and he says, I will be able to complete within next 3 months. Now, what happened was that if even one of the home buyer goes to the NCLT, he could have triggered the insolvency process. What that results into is that it creates another economic problem, that a whole project which is standing, it comes to a complete standstill. There would be a complete procedure which would continue, and the business would come to a standstill, and ultimately the builder may completely lose track of that project. He may lose the control of that project. So the policy makers recommended that let there be class suits in such cases. Let number of people combine together, and a recommendation was made that in case of home buyers, let there be at least 100 home buyers, or those 10% at least in number. So whichever is lower, they said, let them come together. And a very interesting, I would say, policy basis was further given to this argument. And they stated that anyways, we have provided them with, they have an opportunity to go to RERA and they can address their grievances. So if there is any individual grievance, that can be settled at RERA's forum. So the point of the matter is that in order to obviate these two problems of threshold and this, ultimately came the changes in law, which came in two parts. One was the notification which was issued. We are all aware the limit was increased to 1 crore. So now if the limit was increased from 5 lakh, which was recommended, to straight away 1 crore, and from 50 lakh for financial credit straight away again to 1 crore. Then now one difficulty for professionals is that the sheer number of cases which I was showing to you here, 18,000 cases, and I showed to you that only 11% went into the CIRP process. What it shows is that most of the cases used to get settled when the cases were either at the notice stage. So when a lawyer used to give a notice, or the company used to give notice under Section 8, at that time itself they used to get settled, or they used to get settled when a person approached the tribunal. We all have that experience. So number one, the first point that I'm going to make is that this would severely impact the number of cases and resulting into reduction in number of cases for the professionals. So if we look at it from a number perspective, I foresee that around 70 to 75% cases can get reduced now because of this. Then what is the opportunity? Now, if as a professional, if I want to just count the numbers, yes, the opportunity would reduce. But there is a huge opportunity which would now, according to me, unfold because of two reasons. The reduction in number of cases would improve the capability of the NCLT to deal with those cases which are high ticket numbers. So that is the first point. So the professionals would be able to devote more quality time and can become qualitatively far more better in achieving better results from the tribunal, in getting the attention of the tribunal, and in getting those important cases decided by the tribunal. Because on the one hand, they have increased the threshold, and on the other, even the tribunal's capacity has been increased. Many new members have been appointed. So this I look as a very big opportunity. And for that purpose, what I would suggest is that, because from whatever court experience I have, this IBC is a very, very interesting law. It is actually an amalgam of the whole business sense of a company, which has to be looked at from the prism of IBC law, which has to be looked at from the prism of accounting, which has to be looked at from the prism of corporate laws, which has to be looked at from the prism of tax laws. So actually, to succeed, what I think is that a multidisciplinary IBC practice, where IBC core professionals along with corporate professionals, accounting professionals, legal professionals who handle NCLT day in and day out, and constitutional experts, if they can combine together, form a team, and then they have business expertise along with them, if that kind of a team structure is built up, according to me, that is going to take the practices at a new level. Because if the capacity of the decision maker, that adjudicator, improves, then definitely the standard of practice is going to improve in the times to come. The second important thing as a professional opportunity with this, which I am looking at, is whether a threshold which is a uniform threshold of 1 crore rupees, can it be considered to be ultra vires, showing lack of classification? Because even lack of classification in many cases has been considered by the Apex Court to be violative of Article 14. So they say equals have to be equated. So now one big difficulty which is arising because of this amendment is that 1 crore limit is even applicable to small scale enterprises. So now their claims mostly do not go to the extent of 1 crore. And that was the logic which was given even in the report, that for operational creditors, let us have a limit of 5 lakh rupees. So if you take it that high, are you depriving them of an opportunity which was there? Are you depriving them of a complete forum? This can be an interesting constitutional question. So I would say that professional opportunities from 2016, IBC 2017, GST, then your black money law, your Benami law, all these laws are real paradise insofar as the lawyers are concerned who are on the constitutional side. And a very interesting case has come up where the question has been whether this 1 crore would be seen as retrospective, prospective, though that was not an issue before the NCLT. But when they, even after the amendment, actually admitted the petition, the assessee straight away went to the High Court. Now we all know whenever a court or a tribunal, it exceeds its jurisdiction, the order is has lack of jurisdiction, one can approach directly to the writ court under Article 226. So this is a new professional opportunity which has to be explored. And there can be views and counter views that why he did not go to NCLAT, why did he go to the High Court, all these things are there. But one thing which we all need to keep in mind is that pure legal questions, pure constitutional questions, pure questions pertaining to interpretation of law actually must go to the constitutional courts for the better evolution of the law. So that's another very interesting dimension which is opening up, because the Delhi High Court has issued notice in that case, I think Pankaj Agarwal or something, where it has been stated that in case of where they have interfered, despite there being an availability of alternative remedy. So that is one thing. Another thing is that now those who are practicing in the IBC field, if they find that those smaller creditors who do not have those 1 crores up to 1 crores, then they need to now also find out opportunities as to what solutions can be provided. Even government needs to find out and provide for appropriate mechanisms where these smaller debts can be settled, where contract implementation can improve. So this is another very, very important point which is there. Now, the next thing is when this amendment came, this by way of the ordinance, where they have stated that what you have, that the dues under IBC, whatever dues become due from the date of that 25th of March, thereafter up to 6 months, from 6 months up to 1 year, for those you cannot file a petition under IBC. So the silver lining is, even though one cannot file the petition during this period, those cases which are continuing from the previous period or which arise out of the defaults arising prior to that period, that professional opportunity remains still intact. So dear friends, what I would say is, according to me, this law is going to shine. It's really a law which provides financial markets a mechanism to adjust themselves in a way that makes the whole financial market more efficient, makes the businesses more efficient. And ultimately, it is very much linked to profession of chartered accountants, profession of company secretaries, profession of CWS, who have good knowledge and integration of business accounts and these legal frameworks. If we can combine all these together, if we can build the capacities by merging the legal position with the business position, with the international law, with the Indian scenario, and with the constitutional courts, how they are functioning, if we can merge those, this is definitely going to be a very good law for the future. But definitely it is not going to give you numbers. We have to concentrate on the quality of service that we provide. That is what I feel about the professional opportunities. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity. Abhishek, please take it forward.
Thank you, Puneetji, for your thoughts. And as you rightly said, that there is going to be a change in the professional, setup, and there definitely needs to be some thought process that has to go in everyone's mind as to what is the future, how we have to do it. With this in mind, I now welcome Ms. Shri Manoj Anandji to share with us a few his thoughts on the aspect where the IBBI has presently, released a discussion paper, and they are proposing to reduce the number of assignments to say 5, and there is a framework of insolvency professional entities which is coming up. So I believe that this is also an area of professional opportunities which we need to carefully think about. So Manoj Anandji, please share your thoughts on that.
Thank you very much. I think I'm audible properly. First of all, हम अपने प्रेसिडेंट साहब को उनके जन्मदिन की मुबारकबाद देते हैं, जो बाई चांस कल था, लेकिन व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में हमारे को आज पता चला। आपको बहुत बहुत मुबारकबाद हो जी, हम सब की तरफ से। देखिए, परी जी ने, हमारे कन्वीनर साहब ने अभी डिस्कस करा कि हमारे पास अपॉर्चुनिटीज कैसे आएंगी बिकॉज ऑफ दीज चेंजेस एंड ऑल दिस थिंग्स एट वेरी मैक्रो लेवल, एंड इट इज रियली अप्रिशिएबल। वो कहते हैं ना कि अब हर चीज के अंदर कुछ ना कुछ अपॉर्चुनिटी होती है, वो अपॉर्चुनिटी लेने के लिए आदमी होना चाहिए। I have prepared my presentation on at micro level, whereby I have come across a lot of opportunities which are coming very soon, maybe at any time. तो मैंने एक PPT prepared करी है, which I am sharing you on my screen. तो I am just moving forward with my PPT. तो इस PPT के अंदर क्या कहते हैं, देखिए इससे पहले एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग सा टॉपिक है हम आईपीएस के बीच में। मैं आपको बताऊं कि अभी आईबीबीआई ने आईपीएस की असाइनमेंट रिस्ट्रिक्ट करने के लिए एक डिस्कशन पेपर निकाला है। मैं इस डिस्कशन पेपर को एक अपॉर्चुनिटी ले रहा हूं अपनी बात को कन्वे करने के लिए। रीजन बीइंग दैट कि ऑफिशियली जो है इसके अंदर आईबीबीआई ने कहा है कि आप हमारे को हमने कमेंट्स दो कि वेदर शुड वी गो फॉर इट और नॉट। इसको मैं आगे डिस्कस करता हूं। एक यस, इट विल बी इंटरेस्टिंग टू ऑल। ये एमएसएमई लॉ के लिए रिलेटेड, देखिए एमएसएमई आज के डेट में चाहे वो जीएसटी हो, चाहे हमारी फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर और एवरीबॉडी इज देयर, दे आर टेकिंग लॉट ऑफ केयर। सिमिलरली MSME also has been taken very good care, or it is proposed to be taken very good care by the IBBA also by amending section 240A, which is coming to be very soon. ये मैं आपसे डिटेल में डिस्कस करूंगा। और जो हमारे को थोड़ा सा रिस्ट्रिक्टिव लग रहा है कि हमारी 1 करोड़ की लिमिट हो गई है और जहाँ 6 महीने के लिए हमारा ये सस्पेंड हो गया है सेक्शन 7, 9, 10, हो सकता है इसको एक बारी हम लोग देख लें और विश कि इसको जल्दी से जल्दी बोर्ड इंप्लीमेंट करेगा तो हमारे फेस पे वही स्माइल आ जाएगी जो छोटे नंबर के केसेस हैं, जो अदर्स हैं, दैट वी बी वेरी वेरी हैप्पी आफ्टर अंडरस्टैंडिंग इट। Third point I be taking is that discussion allowing IP work for other IPs now. अभी very recently board has come out with the circular. इसको मैं चौथा एस्पेक्ट ये है कि जैसे ऑन दी एवरेज हर प्रोफेशनल के मन में ये आईपी के मन में बड़ी चिंता है, एडवोकेट्स के मन में भी चिंता है, नॉट ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ कोविड बट अदरवाइज आल्सो कि प्रोफेशनल अपॉर्चुनिटीज काफी कम हो रही हैं। वो कहते हैं ना, छोटे से जख्म के साथ अगर बड़ा जख्म दिखा दो तो लगता है कि हमारा जख्म छोटा है। तो मैंने कुछ एक तैयार करा है, स्लाइड 2-3 तैयार करी हैं कि कोविड करके बैंक्रप्सी के ऊपर इंटरनेशनली क्या इफेक्ट पड़ा है। जब हम उन चीजों का इफेक्ट देखेंगे तो हमारे को लगेगा कि हमारी जो टेम्पररी सस्पेंशन है, जो हमारे जो टेम्पररी जो काम नहीं मिल रहा, इट्स समथिंग वेरी वेरी स्मॉल थिंग। Lastly, अगर time मिला तो what pre-packed insolvency law is there? I shall also touch is there. IBBI ने एक डिस्कशन पेपर निकाला है 1 जुलाई 2020 को। मेन इस डिस्कशन पेपर के अंदर ये है कि section of the number of assignments to be handled by IP. What I find is that in my insolvency practice of last 3 years, because I was the early entered in this profession, अगर देखा जाए तो स्टेक होल्डर्स इसके अंदर जैसे एजेंसी है, IBBI है, हम हैं, COC है, और क्या नाम इसका कोर्ट्स हैं, ऑनरेबल कोर्ट्स हैं, लेकिन हर जगह से, जबकि कहते हैं ना सेंटर फिगर ऑफ कोर्ट्स इज इंसॉल्वेंसी प्रोफेशनल, लेकिन इसको हर तरफ से कुछ ना कुछ दे आर बीइंग मेड एज अ स्केपगॉट। अब जैसे इन्होंने अभी एक दे हैव गिवन द लॉजिक फॉर, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई वुड टेल यू कि इसके अंदर है क्या। इसके अंदर उन्होंने ये कहा है कि यस कि ये टर्नओवर, बेस्ड ऑन द टर्नओवर ऑफ कॉर्पोरेट डेटर, जो नंबर ऑफ असाइनमेंट्स हैं वो आप इतनी ले पाओगे। जैसे if turnover of the corporate debtor is 1000, then you can take maximum 5 assignment, and then it has goes on reducing to 1, and these assignments will include work of as an IRP, RP or liquidator for a particular CD. देखिए इसके पीछे उन्होंने what board has thought, what I am finding is that कि जो चाहते हैं करना उसकी thought को उसके साथ जोड़ देते हैं। They have taken the clue for this from the Companies Act, whereby they say that for running a company there is a provision under section 203 whereby only one managing director is being appointed. Similarly, the work of IP is also it's like the running, he's acting as a managing director of the particular company. No doubt आज की डेट में जो रेम्युनरेशन का स्टाइल होगा मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर से बहुत ज्यादा नीचे के लेवल का है, वो इशू अलग है, वो उसको बाद में डिस्कस करेंगे। And based on that clue, and then they have taken clue from the SR Steel judgment also, that which is no relevant for this particular topic, that IP is acting as a adjudicating authority and not as a acting as an administrator, not as an adjudicating authority. Similarly, they have taken clue from the Lenco Infratech Limited also, which has whereby say that proposed IRP would not find sufficient time to act as IRP for the respondent company. अब ये बेसिकली कहने का मतलब ये है कि दे हैव सेंट अ डिस्कशन पेपर, जिसकी शायद लास्ट डेट है हमारे पास IBBI को सबमिट करने की 25 है, आई थिंक 25 जुलाई है। तो या इट इज 25 जुलाई 20 और 12-13 दिन है। अब हम what I thought of that as an insolvency professional, it is very difficult to communicate with the board for any matter, but ये एक हमारी ऑनलाइन फाइलिंग है इस कम्युनिकेशन पेपर को। तो दिस इज ऑनलाइन फाइलिंग प्रोसेस इज गिवन डाउन इन दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग, आई बी शेयरिंग माय दिस थिंग स्लाइड, तो उसमें से आप देखना। आई वोंट गो टू द प्रोसेस, बट आई शैल गो टू द बेसिक एस्पेक्ट्स कि व्हिच आई वुड लाइक टू यू टू let's take in this discussion paper में जो उन्होंने हमारे तक पूछा है, इसके लिए हमारे 2-3-4 इश्यूज हैं जो कि मैं आपके साथ शेयर करूंगा, एंड बेस्ड ऑन योर विजडम यू प्लीज पुट दिस थिंग इन देयर। इन माय ओपिनियन इट इज एब्सोल्युटली थ्योरेटिकल इन नेचर। Let's see practically how many companies are in the IBC who has a turnover of more than 1,000 crore rupees or less than 1,000 crore rupees. It's basically, if we see the clut of the cases in IBC, these are far below. Even in my opinion, now more than 90% cases will be coming under the category of MSME because of increase in turnover of 250 crore and 50 crore rupees. So meaning thereby, whatever limit they have prescribed therein is absolutely theoretical, nothing more than that. I was reading a coverage from a lot of newspaper of this regulation from Indian Express, Outlook, Business Standard, IBC Law. Everybody applauded ये जी IBBI बड़ा अच्छा स्टेप ले रही है, क्योंकि इससे कुछ जो कंसंट्रेट हो जाता है काम कुछ लोगों के पास वो कम हो जाएगा, जबकि प्रैक्टिकली इन रियलिटी ऐसी सिचुएशन है ही नहीं। अगर किसी IP के पास 5 से ज्यादा असाइनमेंट्स होती नहीं है, अगर होगा भी तो फिंगर काउंटेड होगा। नाउ one thing I find is that in as far as IP culture is concerned, insolvency professional entity culture is concerned, I compare it with our general professional practice. This is the first time I have seen that for constitution of an insolvency professional agency, you need a capital of 1 crore rupees. I would like to, when our government is encouraging so much for MSME, then why we have this sort of pre-qualification for constitution of IPE? In my opinion, in our response to the paper, you may write something, because in other column, you can convey your thing. Let the IBPI rethink on this limit and allow a constitution of the IP at lower level. As far as work is concerned, I don't understand. I don't feel that we require capital of 1 crore rupees for undertaking any IBC assignment. And in fact, this is something should be there. Should be told to the IBPI in our response paper, because they have given us an opportunity to do this thing. Second thing I found is that under section 22, subsection 3, subsection B, read with section 27, it is with reference to the power of appointment of professional RPs nowadays. I'm strongly feeling nowadays that COC is commanding all the RPs practically whenever they are doing work, because of this particular section only. In fact, instead of using it, they are abusing it now. This, apart from the COC, must be taken away. And most of the time, in fact, in almost all the time, especially after Supreme Court judgment, NCLT is simply seeing that COC has approved the removal or something like that, or reappointment of RP instead of in replacement of IRP. They simply approve it. Since, why I'm saying this thing, because we are acting not as, we are not simply working for COC. We are working for all the people. We are working for, as an insolvency professional, our first and prime duty is towards IBC law. IBC law gives power to COC as one constituent. Other than the members of COC, we have operational guidance. We have to run the business. We have to make a lot of compliances to this thing there. And when law is appointing us, then why this power has been given to the COC, which is being generally abused, not initially, but now it is being abused a lot. In that paper, we should, request to the IBI to at least think on this amendment on this thing. Now, इसके साथ अगर मैं सजेशन देना चाहूँ, तो मैं IBPI को बोर्ड को ये सजेशन देना चाहूँगा, जैसे हमारे CA प्रैक्टिस के अंदर, we also have a very huge CA firms जिनको हमारे बैंक ऑडिट्स वगैरह अलॉट किए जाते हैं, RBI के वगैरह, they can take a clue from there. And prepare a panel, categorize the IPs based on their experience and other case handling, and from out of that panel, they can, the existing panel is a very, very small, very different type of panel, whereby every IP is given a same priority. They can take clue from that particular panel, categorize the panel, and based on the size of the company, they can refer the matter to the COC, maybe if not one IP, maybe 2 or 3, 4 IPs, and ask them to choose out of that. And if they find anything wrong in any of the IP work during there, then the power of removing instead of with them should not be with them. I should say it should be with NCLT. Second thing is that another issue which we are practically facing is that fees determination. Initially, when we started our IBC practice, banks were very, good. They were good in paymaster. They're paying reasonably well. Now, with the passage of time, the fees has reduced to, what was existing fees they were paying earlier to 20-25%. देखिए, फीस कम होने से मैं ये नहीं कहता कि हमारे को फर्क पड़ता है, लेकिन इससे जो क्वालिटी ऑफ वर्क है काफी कम हो जाता है. अगर जैसे हम चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स हैं, कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट्स हैं, अगर हमारी प्रोफेशनल प्रैक्टिस अच्छी है, तो अगर हम उसको छोड़ के या उसके साथ इसको ऐड कर रहे हैं, तो वी शुड डिवोट आवर टाइम ऑन दिस ओनली देन व्हेन वी आर सेटिस्फाइड देयर. तो ये जो है इन द सेंस की फीस डिटर्मिनेशन है, इट शुड आल्सो बी स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड द वे इट इज डन इन आवर बैंक ऑडिट्स आल्सो. तो IBPI भी अगर थोड़ा सा इस पे इनिशिएटिव ले, बिकॉज़ दे से वी आर लेफ्ट इट इन द मार्केट फोर्सेस, दिस इज a trend of our world, but new trend can also be started. And at the same time, we are paying 10,000 rupees per annum to agency, 0.25% of our collection to the IBPI also. Even when we are paying to them something, we think we have a right for asking them that they should also take it for us, rather than spending all the money on salaries and other things which they are getting, which gains the fees which they are getting from us. Yes, this will be very interesting. I shall take 5-10 minutes there. MSME got mentioned in IBC only for non-applicability of section 29A as MSME. जैसा आप जानते हैं कि सेक्शन 29A के अंदर यह है कि अगर CD जो है वो MSME है, तो then he is not supposed to comply with the requirements of 29A. But it's in the news now. A lot of newspapers have covered it also. Government is coming out with a special sort of insolvency proceedings in the case of MSME sector. which they will come out, expected to come out, I think very soon, as per notification under section 240A of central government. Under section 240A, central government has power to mitigate any of the difficulties faced in the implementation of IBC. The concession was given as per the recommendation of Insolvency Law Committee Report 2018, headed by Injeti Srinivas. Committee observed that similar provisions are also present within a bit of the other legislation, including a Competitive Act of 2002, BR Act, Custom Act, Urban Land Sealing and Regulation Act. And now let's see what these are. Yes, one thing I would like to share with you is that for our even existing assignments, देखिए हमारी जो एमएसएमई की लिमिट बढ़ी है, लिमिट बढ़ के तो 250 करोड़ से टर्नओवर की और इन्वेस्टमेंट की 50 करोड़ पे की आ गई है, तो इसके ऊपर सेक्शन 29A इज एप्लीकेबल व्हेन रजिस्ट्रेशन प्लान इज कमिंग टू बी देयर. Now with the increase in limit, you please try to see that if you are covered under MSME, whether the pitfalls of 29A should be taken care or not. Why why this is required? Since a close interaction of personal and sole proprietorship insolvency with MSME exists, a fresh start should be made viable to MSME who are sole proprietors or natural persons. Now, what I'm sharing with you, the crux of this special law under insolvency with reference to MSME is coming to be there. It came out, if you noted it, that Finance Minister on May 17, 2020, while announcing a special package for industry, has proposed a special insolvency framework for MSME. Essential features of the proposed new legislation with reference to MSME being drafted by ABB are as follows. In this case, timeline shall not be 180, 270 or 330 days. It has to be 90 days in the proposed law. How it will be completed, let's see my brother's presentation and may be able to understand from there. Promoters can submit registration plan by exempting from section 29A. Shall whenever any this proceeding under this proposed law is to be there, shall inform RP within 15 days of the initiation of the insolvency process, which shall be put for switch challenge with other parties. Meaning thereby कि अगर कोई रजिस्ट्रेशन प्लान प्रमोटर देता है तो वो एक बेयर मिनिमम हमारे लिए रजिस्ट्रेशन प्लान हो जाएगा, उसके बेस पे जो कंसर्न आरपी होगा बाकी लोगों से भी प्लान मांगेगा, और जिसका स्विच चैलेंज के अकॉर्डिंग, स्विच चैलेंज का सिस्टम ये होता है कि बेयर मिनिमम के बाद हम उसकी रीबिडिंग करवाते हैं. तो अगर इफ समबडी इज कम ऑन द हायर साइड देन दैट बिड विल बी एक्सेप्टेड. दिस इज अ वेरी गुड मूव. Yes, who can trigger it? It can be triggered by the MSE itself with prior approval of 25% unrelated financial creditors. ये थोड़ा सा मुश्किल है कि बिकॉज जैसे आज के डेट में बैंक्स प्रेफर करते हैं ओटीएस वगैरह करना. क्या हमारे ब्यूरो यानी कि जो बैंक्स की मेंटालिटी चेंज होगी? विल दे कम आउट विद दिस 25% गिविंग अप्रूवल फॉर गोइंग टू द एमएसएमई और नॉट? I hope with the passage of time they will learn, and instead of having a big default, they may go for restructuring in this way. Yes, another is that under this proposed law, change in approach from creditor in control to debtor in control, meaning thereby promoter shall run the company and RP's role shall be limited to conducting and supervision of the insolvency process. मीनिंग देयर बाय कि जो डे टू डे फेज है वो एग्जिस्टिंग प्रमोटर ही करता रहेगा, कंपनी सारी उसके अंदर ही रहेगी. जो आज की डेट में सीओसी फॉर्म होने के बाद इमीडिएटली फ्रॉम डेटर टू क्रेडिटर का कंट्रोल आ जाता है, वो नहीं रहेगा, कंट्रोल डेटर का ही रहेगा. आरपी का जॉब होगा सिर्फ जो लीगल कंप्लायंसेस हैं वो उनको रिलेटेड टू आईबीसी वो उनको कंप्लाई करे और 90 डेज के अंदर रिजल्ट दे. Yes, another essential feature of this proposed law is that it will simplify claim verification process and preparation of information memorandum. How it will be, simplify this thing? No public announcement, only a public notice on the website of the MSME and IBPI. मैंने भी देखा कि अपनी प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ के अंदर पब्लिक नोटिस अनाउंसमेंट के बाद पब्लिक नोटिस देके हार्डली एनीबॉडी कम्स विद अ क्लेम. हम लोग एज एन आईपी एज एन आईआरपी जब काम करते हैं तो जनरली जितने भी फाइनेंशियल क्रेडिटर्स बड़े बड़े क्रेडिटर्स होते हैं उनको फोन करके बताते हैं कि ये कंपनी सॉल्वेंसी भी चली गई है, क्योंकि सीडी का उसका डेटर कोई बताता नहीं. तो दैट कैन सेव ए कॉस्ट मेनी अ टाइम व्हिच इज मिनिमम 10-15,000 रुपीस दैट रन्स अप टू few lakhs of rupees. RP shall inform each creditor as per certified list by the chairman, managing director of the company, and seek confirmation or objective. This is a very good, move. Registration plan approved shall be based on 60% of the casted votes and not on total votes. Meaning thereby, if we have 1,000 persons for the voting, then out of that 1,000, if 700 are present at that time, then 66% of those 700 will be counted only, not 1,000 persons. Even as the IBBI is working on the special framework for MSME, it is not certain if the same will be applicable only for the period during which normal insolvency process will remain suspended, or the MSME framework would be there forever. This is still not clear. Another thing is, this is something, something bring cheer in the minds of everybody, including, especially with all the insolvency professionals.
Manojji, my sincere request. We are running short of time, so if you could just complete this in another 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. Default amount is ₹1 lakh, overriding 25 prison and suspension of 7, 9, 10 for defaults during COVID period. IPs, IPs have been allowed to work for other IPs now by amending section so and so. Yeah, this is a good move because existing infrastructure shall be used, but only caution is we should not be used by big IPs as double stamp. Be cautious for that. तो सुनामी इन इंटरनेशनल मार्केट, ये मेरी पीपीटी पढ़ लेना, उसके अंदर मिल जाएगा कि किस किस कंपनीज के अंदर डिले और क्या हुआ है. आई एम पासिंग थ्रू. नाउ लेट मी शेयर विद यू माय प्री पैक. व्हाट आर द प्री पैक इंसॉल्वेंसी? इन ब्रीफ, इट इज लाइक इट इज लाइक ओटीएस, बट ओटीएस में एक फाइनेंशियल क्रेडिटर होता है. इसके अंदर सब फाइनेंशियल क्रेडिटर्स को मिलके एक बिफोर स्टार्ट ऑफ द इंसॉल्वेंसी दे हैव टू गो फॉर द प्री पैक. I think Abhishek ji, I hope I'm able to follow your instructions, and now I'm closing down. ये जो मैंने फास्ट वे से थोड़ा सा करा है, ये मैं स्लाइड शेयर कर लूंगा, इससे आप लोग देख के आगे पढ़ लेना. Thank you very much. Thank you Abhishek ji for giving me time and opportunity.
Thank you so much, Manoj ji. I think you have dealt upon really insightful issues, and one of the most important issue which I feel you dealt with was this abuse of power by the COC in replacement and appointment of RP. COCs of late have started thinking that RP is only working for them, and while the code prescribes enough checks and balances, the RP has to be independent and the COC has to be independent. So with these things in mind, there is another issue which I would like to highlight, which has really come up these days, is about the forensic audit. Recently, I was also approached by a client wherein he wanted to get his forensic audit done because he was afraid that tomorrow if his company goes into the CIRP and the RP will conduct the forensic audits, and then fraudulent transactions might come up, and what are his liabilities, etc. So this is also one area where I feel is a lot of professional opportunity. So for this, we have with us our distinguished panelist, Shri Sumit Bansal ji, who is also an ex-banker with one of the largest international banks and is currently a CA in practice along with an insolvency professional. So Sumit ji, I welcome you and request you to share your thoughts on this issue of change of RP by banks, empanelment by banks, along with the problems of the forensic audit which might come up. Sumit ji, over to you, please. So please unmute. Please unmute, sir.
Am I audible now? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, mentor of the BVSS and stalwart of profession, Shri Anil Sharma ji, President and eminent GST expert, CA Rohit Vaswani ji, very, very dynamic, and my personal friend, CA Vipin Agarwal ji, secretary and author of a very popular GST book, very, very eloquent speaker and advocate, Puneet Agarwal ji, experienced RP Manoj Anand ji, and advocate Abhishek Garg ji, who is one of the very good drafters of legal matters, and of course our mentor for the IBC in BVSS, CS GP Madan ji. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I am very, very happy that this webinar is happening with at this time, and you have actually linked a lot of current topics with professional opportunities. So the topic that has been given to me, let me just share my screen, is overview of what we say PUFE transactions with RBI guidelines, and I will try and because the time allocated is limited, rather than going into the technicalities, I will just cover aspects from my personal experience and link it with the professional opportunities. But before I come to that, I will just make one comment on this burning issue of 1 lakh and 1 crore limit. As my fellow panelists said, that IBC is one of the game changers, probably one of the top 10 economic legislation since independence. And the reason, and I totally agree with it, and the reason for this is that not because it has resulted in resolving certain NPAs, or because it has given one more option to the creditors to hold the debtor accountable, but because it has resulted into some kind of a behavioral change in the credit markets. So the corporate debtors is now being forced to look at its cash flow statement, projected cash flow statement more closely, because he knows that if he falls along the line, then the company can go out of his control. So he better be more disciplined in his cash flow planning. The creditors, especially the financial creditors, who earlier used to place a lot of reliance on the security that they have, now know that they may be secured, but then if the business turns unviable or is not able to meet operational creditors, then one of the operational creditors will drag it to the IBC, and the creditors will have to live through it. And I would just add one more thing, since there are a lot of chartered accountants, members of BVSS, that even we as chartered accountants, when we are certifying the balance sheet, earlier there used to be a huge time gap between the first sign of weakness in the credibility of the account to when actually that account went under an forensic audit or some kind of a scrutiny. But today, you never know that, you are signing the balance sheet this year, and before the next round of balance sheet comes to your desk, the company may end up in IBC and would go under the scanner of a forensic auditor or a transactional auditor. And you may also be called upon to give certain evidences, or, there may be some kind of an inquiry against an auditor also. It has happened. It's not that I'm just quoting this out of thin air. So all this has resulted into change of behavior for the good in the credit markets. Now, unfortunately, all this entire thing has turned out in a inverted manner. So when the IBC came in, they, out of the spectrum of 1 lakh to 1 crore, the government chose to keep it at 1 lakh, when actually they should have kept it at a higher limit, because they didn't have experienced professionals, the court infrastructure was not ready. But then we all went through that grind. And now that we had the basic things in place, many of the provisions being upheld by the Supreme Court, their constitutional validity and things like that were in place. Unfortunately, now we have put the limit to 1 CR. And what happens is that practically 99% of the operational creditors means that they would not be able to take any benefit of this IBC, which means, I fear that this behavioral change that had started, we may not end up losing it. So that was my point. Now I come to my this topic for today. What happens is that, once a RP is appointed, when it goes to the COC, many times you hear a lot of transactions which the banks are used to quoting in the RBI framework, such as watch list, early warning signals. This account is already red flagged account. The forensic audit has already been done. Then why you need to do another audit? The RP is also thinking that the audit has already been done. Should I order another audit? Is it required? Would it involve just one more round of the same, expense? Then some account may be a fraud or a willful default. The CBI already there. The Serious Fraud Investigation Authority may already be there. So, as RP, we need to match these concepts with our IBC concept, so that we can, in our own mind, we can put things in perspective, and also probably help COC to understand where we are coming from. So I will just in brief explain all these provisions that are there under the RBI framework. And when we say early warning signal, I have some practical experience, because way back in 2006, I was part of the team in an MNC bank, wherein I would dare say, we invented this early warning signal, a kind of a dashboard which throws in some early warning signs in an account. And then during the course of a RBI audit, the RBI picked up that, you guys are having zero credit costs since last 5 years. So what are the best practices? And we shared one of this. And then it was circulated among all the banks. And finally, a master circular came in wherein now it is mandatory for each bank to have an early warning signal mechanism. And it is very simple, the information that hits the bank normally is, they will have a monthly stock statement, they'll have a stock audit, projected financials, provisional financials, audited financials. So if someone to collect all this information that is coming from the corporate debtor, then there are many signs that can be picked up which points out to a deterioration in the credit worthiness before the actual defaults start happening. So I have listed some of the points and I will circulate the slides, but for some examples like frequent requests for TODs or the throughput in the account not matching with the turnover being shown, or deterioration in the aging profile of the debtors, increase in the current assets, increase in unbilled revenue year on year, default or late payment of statutory dues, etc. These are all earning signals. Now, what happens is that once you pick up an early warning signal, it may or may not trigger a red flagging of the account. The difference is that in case of a red flagged account is one where a suspicion of fraudulent activity is thrown up by the presence of one or more early warning signals. These signals in a loan account should immediately put the bank on alert regarding a weakness or wrongdoing which may ultimately turn out to be fraudulent. A bank cannot afford to ignore such early warning signals, but must instead use them as a trigger to launch a detailed investigation. So the difference between early warning and a red flag is that early warning is internal to the bank. If there is an early warning signal, normally the RBI requires the bank to review account at least on a yearly basis. But once the account is watch listed, the bank may be reviewing it on a monthly or a quarterly basis. However, it will not notify the RBI or the other co-lenders regarding the fact that the account has come into the watch list. But once that watch list is converted into a red flag, then the bank is mandated to bring it to the notice of the RBI and other co-lenders that there is a suspicion of a fraud in this account. And that would typically trigger a forensic audit. Now, the forensic audit may be done by the external auditors or maybe by an internal team of investigations, but the bank has to decide within 6 months of tagging the account as red flag as to whether this account is a fraud account or not a fraud account. Now, in terms of, when we talk of banking fraud, there are many types of frauds. Someone opens a current account with forged KYC documents and does some anti-money laundering, therein it is also a forgery. A cashier at the bank embezzles the cash of the bank, it is also forgery. But the discussion that we are having today is in terms of the fraud that borrowers do. So that is, normally called as a willful default in the banking language. And the definition here is very, very interesting. The willful default definition is the unit has defaulted in meeting its repayment obligations to the lenders. So this is the first condition at a sacrosanct that the unit must have defaulted in meeting its repayment obligations. Up till the point a unit is meeting its repayment obligations, then even if there is some issue in the accounts and all, it will not result in classifying it as a willful default. And additionally, even when the borrower has the capacity to honor the said obligations, or has diverted or siphoned off the funds for purposes other than sanctioned terms, and nor are the funds available with the unit, or has also disposed of or removed the assets given for the purpose of securing a loan without the knowledge of the lender. So the first condition that there is a default, and either of these three conditions together, it will result in classification of the account as a willful default. Now, what is diversion or siphoning of funds? It is basically, when the banks lend, they lend for a particular purpose. It may, if it is a working capital loan, then it is for financing the working capital. But if the money has been used for taking up some fixed assets, then it is a diversion of the funds. Or if the money has been used to invest in a group company, either as equity or debt, it is a diversion siphon of funds. So this is so anything. So it is very important for the banks and for the borrower also to see the sanction terms as to what conditions are being there and where they need to meet those conditions. Now, what is the mechanism for declaring willful defaults? Because the professional opportunity comes in. First is that there will be an identification committee headed by a ED who will examine the evidence, and they will have to necessarily issue a show cause notice to the concerned borrower, call for their submissions, and after careful consideration of the submissions, they have to issue a speaking order. So a professional can obviously represent a person who's accused of being a willful defaulter in front of the identification committee. In fact, assignments have started now coming in wherein people who foresee a default or who foresee a difficult business scenario wants a pre-audit of their pre-forensic audit of their books done, so that they beforehand know if unintentionally they are not meeting certain covenants in the borrowing terms and what they can do about it. Now, after the identification committee says that it is a case of willful default, then there is a second check of a review committee, which is headed by normally the chairman or the managing director of the bank, who also has to confirm the order before it becomes a case of a willful default. Now, once a case becomes a willful default, there are many adverse consequences. The first is that he will become untouchable. So recently, Abhishek ji only asked me a question that when some account becomes NPA, can a bank give him additional facilities? So the answer lies herein. That just because an account has become NPA, it is a statistically term to kind of, for the purpose of risk allocation at the bank level. But it does not mean that the bank cannot support the account. But once it becomes a willful default, because it means there is a fraud involved there, and then the account will become totally untouchable, not just for the period during which it becomes a willful default, but even if that person were to clear all the dues with all the banks, then also for 5 years from that period, he will not, no bank or NBFC will lend any money to that unit or to any of the directors or associate concerns of that unit. Then the banks would immediately start the legal process, whether under SARFAESI or IBC. They may also initiate criminal proceedings. So PSU banks normally refer to the CBI. Private banks normally refer it to the local police. So all this is given in the RBI master circular.
Sumit, sorry to interrupt. If you could please just complete your discussion in another 3-4 minutes.
Right. So, now what happens is that now I am just linking it with the IBC framework, that under the IBC, the onus is on the RP and the liquidator, as against under RBI framework, where the onus is on the banker. And then scope is wider than fraud or willful default, because in a fraud, Punitji, you need to have an intent of defrauding someone. Whereas under IBC, if we see the definitions, preferential transactions or extortionate credit transactions, they may not always be an intent, and yet they get classified. Now, look back period. In case of a fraud, in case of a willful default, there is no time limit for look back period, and the bank may actually depend upon the understanding of the bank when the limit was drawn down, and they may go as far back as 5 years or 10 years and give that kind of a mandate to the forensic auditor. But in IBC, under most of the sections, the look back period is 1 year for non-related parties and 2 years for the related parties. But recently there has been a judgment in May 2020 of the NCLT, I think Indore bench, wherein they have said that for the fraud kind of transactions, there is no limitation on the look back period even under IBC. Now, under IBC, we generally terminology uses transactional audit, while for banks it is the forensic audit. Now, the RP should expect that it will be a long drawn litigation, and even after a resolution plan has been approved, the applications filed under the PUFE framework may still remain under litigation. So it is very important that under the resolution plan, it is provided that the cost of this litigation would continue to be counted as CIRP cost, and whatever recovery that entails from these transactions will not go to the benefit of the resolution applicant. So I think because of the limitation of time, I would just rest my presentation here. And I hope that I have been able to bring some perspective as to what was the framework for identifying frauds before the IBC came in. And after the IBC came in, obviously there is some addition to that and a lot of onus with the recent judgment of the Supreme Court in Anuj Jain versus Axis Bank case. I would believe that this should become the priority #1 for any resolution professional or liquidator to look at these transactions closely. So that's it from my side. Abhishek ji, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sumit ji, for your thoughtful discussion. Now we have, discussed a lot about the professional opportunities. Now I would invite our senior most member, Shri GP Madan ji, who is, listening to our discussion since last 1 hour. But I would, invite him to share his thoughts on the professional opportunities, because ultimately he is the senior most members whom we also look forward to for any kind of guidance whenever we want to. So, GP Madan ji, sir, please request you to take over the discussion.
Thanks, dear Abhishek. Thanks for the nice words. Happy birthday, Rohit ji. And welcome all my co-panelists. It's really a nice opportunity provided to me to share my thoughts. Abhishek ji, time bata do thoda kitna hai, fir accordingly I'll try to finish it off also.
So you have around 10 to 12 minutes.
10 to 12 minutes. बाकी 2-3 मिनट को grace मिल ही जाता है. Good morning, good afternoon, all the participants. Good morning. इसलिए निकल रही है because since morning I've been speaking today. Since 9 o'clock I've been speaking. So that same good morning is there in my mind. Participants before me, the panelists before me have talked about that this legislation has been game changer. My view on this is no doubt this particular legislation has been game changer. This has changed the game for the banking sector, changed the game for the corporates, changed the game for the economy, and as Mr. Puneet said, changed the relationship between the debtors and creditors. My view on this is no doubt it's a game changer, but once the game starts or once the game has started, the rules of the game should not be changed. Actually, this has happened in this particular legislation time and again. The rules of the game are being changed again and again and again. The rules of the game are being changed by through ordinances, through amendment acts, through regulations, through various circulars, through clarifications, through by MCA through notification, and last but not the least, through various orders and judgments, including the judgment of the highest authority. That is why I said this legislation is very, very dynamic in nature. And we, the resolution professionals, insolvency professionals, have to keep in mind all these changes which are happening around us, and accordingly we are also supposed to mold ourselves and change ourselves according to the need of the time, according to the expectations of the regulator, and according to the expectations of the legislature, according to the expectation of the judiciary. The recent change which I could see, the way the rules of the game have been changed, is the order of NCLT Chandigarh bench day before yesterday's order in MTech Autos case. What actually this case is saying, and how now we have to cope up with all these changes. You know what happened in that case in MTech Auto? The resolution applicant was there. Resolution plan was passed for 4,400 crores, and later on that particular resolution applicant said that no, sorry, now I'm not interested. I can't take over this company. I'm withdrawing my plan. So once there is no plan, what are the various options? I don't think there are various options. The one option can be go to the second highest bidder, who was 3,150 crores. First, the resolution plan approved was 4,400 crores. Second was 3,150. So the creditors decided, no, sorry, we are not interested. Let the company go into liquidation. And ultimately, a liquidation order was passed. Now the creditors got disturbed. That why liquidation should be there? There are assets in the company. Now they approach Supreme Court. Now you see what we read in the IBC, either resolution, if no resolution, liquidation. Resolution has been there. Resolution applicant withdrew, liquidation order has been passed. What else do we want? Now Supreme Court say, okay, revise the process again. Let there be rebidding again. Now COC is meeting again. The second highest resolution applicant, the Deccan Value investors, I think. Now they have submitted their bid for 3,150 crores. And their bid is accepted by COC. And now this plan has been approved for 3,150 crores against the original dues of 12,600 crores. No, sorry, but I'm sorry, one figure. The 3,150 crores of earlier bid of DVI, Deccan Value Investor, now becomes 2,700 crores because it was rebidding. It was fresh bidding. So against 4,400 crores of the earliest resolution applicant, successful resolution applicant, Liberty House, now we have bid for 2,700 crores. And out of 2,700 crores, it's surprising to see, Puneet ji, aap bhi dhyan dena, 500 crores is upfront. 1,800 crores shall be generated out of the receivables of the company. That also by way of some tax refunds as well as sale of some of the assets of the company, including real estate. ये काम तो कोई भी कर लेगा. Now this resolution applicant, 1,800 crores I'll be generating out of the company's operations and out of the tax refunds and out of the sale of the assets of the company. Now we, the resolution professionals, should be mindful of all this. That whenever we are looking into any such a resolution plan, it means such a resolution plan can also be accepted now. Where resolution applicant is not giving entire money, he is using the resources of the corporate debtor. But I tell you, had it been at the beginning, in the first resolution plan, the IBBI would have been after this resolution professional. How come you place this resolution plan before the COC? This is incomplete violation of the IBC provisions and its regulations, and disciplinary action would have been taken definitely. But because it has been routed through Supreme Court and now it has become possible. And in the meantime, what has actually happened? This second resolution applicant also approached the authorities that I'm also not interested. But now this is no, sorry, now you have to take it over. Now finally, will you take it over or not? Whether this unit will become viable or not, it will start functioning or not, only the time will tell. But what I'm trying to say is that these are not only the challenging time for the country because of the COVID, these are challenging times for we, the insolvency professionals, also because of all these happenings and developments which are happening around us. Second thing I would like to discuss about this professional opportunities. Recently, I don't know how many of us have gone through this Insolvency Law Committee report of 20th of February 2020. Some of the proposals which are given there are really alarming. And first time I've seen that before the report is submitted, I think the report's recommendations have been leaked and have already become part of the law. I tell you what are those. It says the default limit should be 50 lakhs. This 1 lakh should become 50 lakhs. And in case of OCs, it should become 5 lakhs. Government already notified it on 24th of March, 1 lakh se seedha 1 crore kar diya. Number 2, that particular report says 100 creditors or 10% of the total number of creditors. 20th February ko report aa rahi hai. 28th December ko already ordinance issue ho gaya on this. It was report was already given, preliminary report was already given to the government and government has already acted upon this. Section 14 moratorium, essential supplies, licenses, permission, registration shall continue to be there provided to make the payment and all that. This is their part of the report, has already been there in the ordinance. However, one thing is there which I really liked in this report, and we the professionals should take care of that. You know, since that particular S. Dhanpal case of NCLT, where they said that in the liquidation, first of all, opportunity should be given to the creditors and the shareholders of the company to submit a scheme under Section 230 of the Companies Act 2013. Later on, it was said that all those promoters or all those entities who are barred under Section 29A, they cannot give any scheme under Section 230. It came through that Gujarat Nari Coke judgment. And later on, it became part of the regulations also. Now this ILC is saying, in case of liquidation, Section 230 of the Companies Act 2013 should not become applicable. The rules of the game are going to be changed again further. So Earlier, we were thinking that in case of liquidation, we, the professionals, shall be having another opportunity of corporate restructuring under the Companies Act. But that opportunity now may not be there anymore because of this report's recommendation. If this recommendation is accepted, then one more opportunity which we, the professionals, are having and which we may not be there in future. This report is talking about appointment of official liquidator. As on date, an IP is becoming liquidator. But now this report is again talking about the same old concept of official liquidator under Companies Act 1956. Now we need to go to the genesis of this report, why this recommendation is coming of the appointment of an official liquidator again. Because the report is not mentioning that an insolvency profession shall be official liquidators. We cannot be called official liquidators. The concept of official liquidator is again coming. Maybe there is a possibility that somehow or somewhere that have we failed somewhere, and we need to introspect. Have we, the resolution process, have we failed somewhere, or this is a possibility that in addition to the existing, this is an additional opportunity or additional office which is being set by the government of official liquidator. Only the time will tell if this recommendation is accepted. Coming to the some of the figures, I think पुनीत जी ने बड़ी अच्छी figures दी कि professional के लिए opportunities जो हैं, उन्होंने कुछ figures दी which were placed before the House Parliament. I have also taken some of the figures on the basis of the quarterly newsletter of IBBI for the quarter ended 31st of March. I have really liked those figures, and I'm in favor of staunch follower of or supporter of IBC, I tell you. What has it said? That if you see the number of companies against 221 companies which have gone into resolution, 914 companies have gone into liquidation. On the face of it, the figure बड़ी खराब लग सकती है कि यार क्या रेशियो है, 1:4 का रेशियो, 1:5 का रेशियो आ रहा है. जितनी resolution नहीं हुई उससे multiple times, 4.5 times companies have gone into liquidation, but nothing to worry about that. Because all those companies which have gone into liquidation, at least 75% of those companies are erstwhile sick companies which were pending before BFR. उनको वो sick थी, उनको liquidate होना ही होना था, nothing to worry about that. But when we see the figures of these two segments, 221 versus 914, 221 में जो थी वो 96,000 करोड़ रुपए की assets थी, 96,000 crore, while 914 में सिर्फ 36,000 करोड़ रुपए की assets थी. So the number seems to be too big, 914, but उसमें figures कितनी 36,000 crore, 36,000 crores of assets, while under in 221, 96,000 crores of assets. और सेकंड और देखें, अगेंस्ट दिस 96,000 crores of rupees, this was a liquidation value of the assets of these companies. Against this, what has been recovered? 1,91,000 crores. That is the victory of this legislation. Against 96,000 crores, sorry, you have recovered 1,84,000 crores, which is roughly 191% of the liquidation value. आज तक मुझे कोई बता दे in the entire country in case of liquidation of a company, when the company is there's no survival, or in case of OTS and all that also, 191% of the liquidation value has been given to the banks, or the banks have received that also in a time-bound manner. That has not happened so far, but this has happened. Another victory for we professionals is that more than 3 lakh crores of rupees has already come to the creditors during initiation and commencement. Meaning thereby the applications have been filed, but the applications have not been admitted. And during this period, there have been settlements, and more than 3 lakh crores of rupees has been received by various creditors. Now these figures, nobody is going to count these three figures. This figure is because of IBC, but this figure is exactly because of IBC, not because of any other reason. Because IBC has created such a scenario. In the entire country, nobody now wants to be defaulter. Nobody wants to be titled as defaulter. The moment a notice comes, the person runs to the company और उसे proposal देता है कि मेरी जगह किस तरह से settle कर लो. I don't want my company to be sent into insolvency and the resolution and ultimately into liquidation if there's no resolution applicant. Nobody wants that. That is a big change. And that's why it's a game changer. Now, I would like to touch upon a couple of more things because time is also running out. Recently, I was reading that Jayaprakash Associates, no doubt JP Infra is still in a big trouble. No doubt the company has been given to NBCC, but because of one particular provision, one particular impractical provision, the recent amendment, that all the dissenting financial creditors shall be given the liquidation value. Now, being a resolution applicant, how do I know that who is going to vote favor or who is going to vote against? Now, if some financial creditors, if they decide to vote against me or they want to abstain from the voting, it means they will be getting the liquidation value. A liquidation value to be paid to them has not been provided by me in my resolution plan. Where am I going? Where am I going to bring that money? And he says, I want this money. Same thing has happened in this case. One of the bankers has moved NBCC that I'm the dissenting financial creditor. I want the liquidation value to be paid to me. NBCC says, sorry, I can't pay you anything. My total amount to be spent on this company is given in the plan. Over and above that, I can't spend a single penny. Now the matter is still pending before I think NCLAT. Let's see what is going to happen. Looking at all this and looking at what is happening in IBC scenario, in case of Jayaprakash Associates now, I think a couple of days back news only, the lenders are now attempting a resolution plan outside IBC. This may be bad news, this may be good news. Bad in the sense, such a big company which would have come into IBC scenario and the resolution profession would have got certain assignments. From that angle, it's bad. From good in the sense that it is another opportunity for the profession, certainly for those who are dealing into corporate restructuring, who are doing this corporate restructuring work. And we, the resolution professional, actually, what we are doing in these resolution plans is also nothing but corporate restructuring. तो if corporate restructuring यहाँ नहीं करेंगे तो वहाँ करेंगे. Maybe हो सकता है वहाँ की जो opportunity बहुत अच्छी हो, तो वो जो corporate restructuring की जो activities अब जो आने वाली outside IBC, particularly not because of this JP, but also because of 1 lakh to 1 crore, number of applicants will be out, particularly because of this suspension ordinance, number of companies will be out of this where cases cannot be filed, and there may be ample opportunities outside IBC regarding corporate restructuring, regarding mediation, regarding conciliation, maybe regarding arbitration also. So we have to spread our wings. Now, last point which I would like to cover is regarding disciplinary mechanism. You know, हमारे पास बहुत opportunities हैं, बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, but simultaneously we have to be very, very careful. We have to be very, very vigilant. I am handling number of cases on behalf of IPs before IPAs as well as before IBBI. I tell you, the moment an inspection is done by IBBI or by IPA, the questions which they ask, the information which they ask, the information which you provide, and their expectation and our working, there is a huge gap between both of them. They are simply not satisfied with our working. They are simply not satisfied with our records. They are simply not satisfied with the reports which you are submitting to them. And you know, there are two types of grievances. Number one, complaint, and number two, grievance. Let's distinguish between both of them. Both have been defined under the code and regulations. Complaint means violation of the provisions of the code or the regulations or the circulars, while grievance means if somebody is not happy with the conduct of the insolvency professional, he can file a grievance with the either IBBI or with IPA. And just see the grievance. Being an IP, we can't please everybody. And if we can't please everybody, somebody is not happy with us, he is going to IP or IBBI and filing a grievance. The moment a grievance is filed, उसके बाद start हो जाता है inquiry. I tell you, we being IPs, we have to keep our records absolutely intact. We have to abide by law in letter and spirit. And in addition to that, our conduct through this entire process of IBC should be beyond the benchmarks which have been set by the regulator. then only we'll be able to survive. I'm not frightening anybody, but what I'm trying to say, whatever I'm seeing practically, हमें जो grievance से बचने के लिए और complaint से बचने के लिए, otherwise, whatever we are going to earn out of this, more than the money we are going to earn our name and reputation and recognition. The moment a show cause notice is issued by the disciplinary committee, it is treated as initiation of disciplinary proceedings. Initiation of disciplinary proceedings means our AFA shall not be renewed. Existing work कर सकेंगे. Our order shall be displayed there. Disciplinary committee के पास अभी तक 27 cases गए हैं. In all 27 cases, insolvency professionals have been held guilty. कहीं warning है, कहीं suspension है, कहीं cancellation है, कहीं penalty है, तो कहीं 25% of the fee which they have received has to be deposited. Now, after that, you go to High Court and file a writ petition. Recently, couple of writ petitions have been filed. In one of the writ petition, the petitioner himself, the resolution professional, submitted the entire amount with the High Court registry, deposited that amount. In the other case recently, which has been decided only last week, in that case, the IP, the petitioner has been directed to submit the entire, not only 80% of this penalty amount, 80% penalty amount with IBBI in a fixed deposit for 1 year. 34 लाख रुपए के लगे थे उसमें कि जमा कराना आपको वापस. Against that 20, it has been ordered to deposit 25 lakh rupees with the IBBI. So we have to be very mindful. No doubt we have ample opportunities, but with these opportunities, there are lots of challenges also. And we, the insolvency professionals, friend, we should be mindful of all these challenges along with the opportunities. No doubt, रोहित जी ने कहा कि यू टर्न मारा है. मैं कहूंगा यू टर्न नहीं मारा है, थोड़ा पाथ चेंज हो गया बिकॉज ऑफ दिस कोविड. रास्ता जो सीधा जा रहा था वो रास्ता थोड़ा टेढ़ा हो गया, और टेढ़ा होके हम पहुंचेंगे वहीं टारगेट पे पहुंचेंगे. थोड़े समय बाद पहुंचेंगे, थोड़ी मुश्किलों के साथ पहुंचेंगे, बट पहुंचेंगे जरूर. मंजिल भी हम अपनी मंजिल पे जाएंगे, और जो हमारे टारगेट से हम सब अचीव करेंगे, हम भी करेंगे, आप भी करेंगे, और इकोनॉमी भी करेगी. आई एम वेरी होपफुल ऑफ दैट. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful discussion. Indeed, it was a very, you gave us new insights about what is happening in the profession. So, yes, sir.
Before proceeding further, I think you may be proceeding for question answer. A few points and questions I have.
Yes, sir.
I think it has been very wonderful session, and many facets has been discussed here. And in the lastly, regarding the disciplinary action and the opportunities, the matching has been done, and it has been cautioned also by GP Madanji. It has been very wonderful. IBC is 1 year senior to GST. It is about 1 year senior. And it is, when we call the historical reforms in India, there could be the name of the GST foremost, which is coming to the mind, but IBC is nonetheless in one of the historical, reforms so far as the legal reforms are concerned in India. One point which is coming again and again regarding the limit, which is very basic issue, and I want the reply from the panelist or whosoever wants to intervene, that whenever we say it was started from 1 lakh, it was a very small amount, and on the other side, because there is one coin have two faces. On the other side, we say if a company is not able to pay 1 lakh rupees, it has to go to the insolvency. So how do we see? Is it a smaller limit or it is a justified limit? And when we see the ordinance, the limit enhanced to 1 crore rupees, then it is a very, high limit, and MSME may not be in the beneficial state. If you see the point of MSME, it is again the both faces of the same coin. If the MSME is the company, then he is, protected that there will not be any resolution if the matter is below the 1 crore. But on the other side, if the MSME is the, or if he wants money, then it is a very huge limit. So what we want to say, is it 1 less 2 smaller limit and the 1 crore is the 2 higher limit, and 50 lakh was the which was proposed in the report which was being discussed by GP Majadi? Is it the right limit for 50 lakh, or you want 25 lakh or 10 lakh? On the ground realities, what do you think about the limit? And second issue, which certainly has taken up by, I think, by Mr. Manoj Anandji, that there is a 1 crore capital limit fixed for the companies which are there for insolvency professionals. So do we have the limit in similar to the asset reconstruction company or the NBFCs which are being made up? One side we are talking about the Atmanirbhar, I would rather say Atmanirbhar professionals or Atmanirbhar service sector. So where is the need for putting this limit? If there is any genesis, kindly let us know. What is the genesis behind putting such a limit in this? And so far as the disciplinary proceedings are concerned, the whatever has been put in by Madanji, this is true for all the sectors. Whenever we talk about the audits, whenever we talk about the statutory audit, concurrent audit, and whatever types of certification is there, it is true for all that the expectation of the regulator is very high, and the record maintenance and performance of the professional may not be matching with that expectation. There is a huge gap between the expectation and the performance at various levels. So what we have the solution? Can we have a cadre of IPs? Are the government willing to pay the fixed amount to the IPs so that they will involve only in the IP proceedings? Because IP is one of the area for a professional. He may be doing the GST, he may be doing the so many litigations, and we are expecting a up to the mark performance from that professional and disciplinary commission. If the matter goes and you have referred to 27 cases, and what is the outcome in those 27 cases? So how do we match those expectations? This was the few points which I was just noticing, although other points are there, but time is very short. If any one of you like to comment on these things.
I am permitted to give the answer, Abhishek ji?
Yes, sir, Manoj ji, please.
Sir, आपने पहला क्वेश्चन करा लिमिट के ऊपर. Limit के ऊपर गवर्नमेंट का पावर है अंडर सेक्शन 240A, whereby they are coming out with a specific legislation for the MSME. तो इसके अंदर जो 1 करोड़ की लिमिट है, या 1 लाख की लिमिट है, या 15 लाख की लिमिट है, या 50 लाख की लिमिट है, डेफिनेटली जो 1 करोड़ की लिमिट है ये तो डिलीट होगी. अभी तक जो न्यूज रिपोर्ट्स है वो यही है कि हो सकता है 1 लाख रुपए वाली लिमिट कंटिन्यू करी जाए. बट इन माय हम्बल ओपिनियन, ओसी की और फाइनेंशियल कैडर्स की लिमिट जो कमेटी ने प्रेस्क्राइब करी है 5 लाख और 50 लाख, आई थिंक दैट विल बी मोर एप्रोप्रिएट. सेकेंड क्वेश्चन इज ऑफ योर डिसिप्लिनरी कमेटी. डिसिप्लिनरी कमेटी में 27 केसेस जो गए हैं, 27 के 27 केसेस बहुत जल्दी डिस्पोज ऑफ हुए हैं. और आईपीबीआई के अंदर एक थॉट प्रोसेस है जो दे अनकंफर्टेबल, या कह लीजिए एक प्री माइंड है उनका, वेयर बाय दे फील कि आईपीज जो जनरली है वो बड़े लाइट वे से काम करते हैं, तो दे शुड सेट एन एग्जांपल फॉर देम. It should not run like in our C institute, whereby disciplinary cases are pending for years, और उसके बाद भी generally वो favor में ही आते थे CS के. They want to get rid of this impression. Your third question is of record. Maintenance of record. रिकॉर्ड के बारे में जो हम लोग प्रैक्टिकली काम करते हैं, हम इतने ज्यादा दुखी हैं, कुछ कहने की बात नहीं. ये काम की हमारे को रिपोर्टिंग एजेंसी को देनी होती है, आईबीबीआई को देनी होती है, एनसीएलटी को देनी होती है, सीओसी को देनी होती है, और इसके अलावा कोई और मांग ले उसको भी देनी होती है. तो वन थिंग. सेकंड थिंग इज कि अगर हमने एजेंसी को एक रिपोर्टिंग देनी होती है तो एक बार इवेंट देनी होती, उसको पहले आपको एक मंथली रिपोर्टिंग देनी होती है, फिर हाफ ईयरली रिपोर्टिंग देनी होती है, एंड ऑल दिस थिंग्स देयर. तो आई हैव अ टॉक विद आईबीबीआई ऑफिशियल आल्सो ऑन दिस रिकॉर्ड कि व्हाई यू पीपल हैव सो मल्टीप्लिसिटी ऑफ रिपोर्टिंग. तो दे सेड कि वी आर कमिंग आउट विद हमारा जो एक हम लोग एक कंप्यूटर का प्रोग्राम बना रहे हैं, वेयर बाय डाटा शैल बी फेड ओनली वंस, और उसके बाद जिस जिसको रिपोर्ट जानी होगी चली जाएगी. लेकिन मेरे को लगता है ये एक थ्योरेटिकल आंसर है उनका, प्रैक्टिकली इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे कुछ नहीं होगा. दैट्स ऑल. दिस इज व्हाट आई वांट टू रिप्लाई.
रोहित, थैंक यू सो मच मनोज जी. आई थिंक रोहित जी का एक और बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन है जो हमें डिस्कस करना चाहिए कि आईपीईज के लिए जो 1 करोड़ की वर्किंग कैपिटल लिमिट है, व्हाई इज दिस देयर? So, Sumit ji, if you would like to.
I think इस पे GP मदान जी के views अगर आए, because he is the most experienced among us and he is representing a lot of cases of the IRPs also, so I would really like to listen to him.
Because really, this is really deterrent to, you know, small Atmanirbhar professionals, that 1 crore of his limit.
देखो पहले तो 1 करोड़ की लिमिट जो आई है, that has not come by way of ordinance, that has come by way of notification. This power was already there with the government under section 4 of the code. The government could have raised the limit of this default, the threshold limit of default from 1 lakh to 1 CR, and it was up to 1 CR. It was expected government, हम पहले यही सोच रहे थे कि 1 लाख से या 10 लाख तक ये ले जाएंगे.
हाँ जी बिल्कुल.
Nobody expected कि 1 लाख से सीधा 1 करोड़ ही कर देंगे. और जो जेनेसिस में दिया गया, रीजन दिया गया, they want to support MSME sector. अरे MSME के लिए करना था, तो मनोज जी ने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा ना, 240A में है ना आपके पास पावर. If you want to do something for MSME sector, you exercise your right under 240A. Why you are giving this blanket 1 lakh to 1 CR? अब आपने MSME की मदद की है या MSME के अगेंस्ट काम किया है by virtue of this? According to it may go against the interest of
yes, agree.
Because MSMEs will not be able to file any application against their creditors. Maximum तो उन्हीं के ड्यूज होते हैं 1 करोड़ से कम के. उन्होंने जो लेना है अब वो फाइल ही नहीं कर पाएंगे किसी में. अब वो कहेंगे बाकी अपॉर्चुनिटीज आपके पास हैं. बाकी अपॉर्चुनिटीज क्या है? बाकी अपॉर्चुनिटीज है आपके सिविल कोर्ट में जाओ, आर्बिट्रेशन में जाओ, where the cost is 2% to 5% the total amount. पता नहीं वो पैसा मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा. कंपनीज एक्ट 1956 के प्रोविजन थे कंपनीज एक्ट 2013 में, क्रेडिटर्स वाइंडिंग अप, वो प्रोविजंस आपने खत्म कर दिए क्योंकि आईबीसी आ गया. आईबीसी आया तो आईबीसी में से आपने प्रोविजंस हटा दिए. मतलब आपके अंदर कोई रेमेडी कोई नहीं छोड़ी इस समय एमएसएमई के पास. आई फेल टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट. कमिंग टू दिस ऑर्डिनेंस आल्सो, ऑर्डिनेंस में भी आपको क्या सस्पेंशन करने की जरूरत क्या थी? अगेन फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ जैसे एमएसएमई, अगेन आई एम सेइंग एमएसएमई के लिए आप सेपरेट प्रोविजंस बना देते. And what you are trying to say through this ordinance, any default happening during this period, 25th March 2020 onwards, for a period of 6 months, which can go up to 1 year, no application can ever be filed for any default.
Yes.
It means it's not no can ever be. I will say can never be filed. So this default, COVID default, is no default at all. It's for all. You do anything, whatever you want to do, you commit defaults with your bankers, you commit default with financial institutions, you commit default with your operational creditor. Once COVID period is over, again you become regular. But for these defaults, no application can be filed against you. Sorry, I'm not in favor of both these amendments practically. Coming to अभी रोहित जी ने बड़ा अच्छा क्वेश्चन किया डिसिप्लिनरी के ऊपर. रोहित जी, डिसिप्लिनरी के ऊपर मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि IBBI के ऑफिशियल्स कहीं भी जा रहे हैं ना, या NCLT या सुप्रीम कोर्ट, everybody is saying that this law is at nascent stage. This law is relatively new. If this law is at nascent stage for everybody, it is at nascent stage for insolvency professionals also. Give them some time to understand this law. Give them some breathing time. Nobody is ready to help him. He has become a punching bag. Everybody comes, punches him and goes away. Whether it's a COC or whether it is an operational creditor, whether it's NCLT, whether it's IPA, whether it's IBBI, कोई हैंड होल्डिंग तो उसकी है नहीं बेचारे की. उसकी फीस के बारे में कोई बात नहीं करता है कि उसे फीस कब मिलेगी, कैसे मिलेगी, कितनी मिलेगी. कई केसेस ऐसे जहां से फीस नहीं मिल रही है एंड ही इज स्पेंडिंग मनी फ्रॉम हिज ओन पॉकेट. वो रीइंबर्समेंट भी कहीं नहीं हो रही है और कंपनी में कोई एसेट्स भी नहीं है. ऐसे भी केसेस हैं. वेयर फ्रॉम इज गोइंग टू गेट हिज मनी? पहले कंपनीज वाइंडिंग अप में जाती थी, हाई कोर्ट्स के पास एक फंड होता था. M&A में से M&A एक्टिविटीज में निकाल के वो फंड रखते थे और उस फंड में से वो लिक्विडेटर की फंडिंग करते थे. तो यहाँ भी आपने भी तो फंड बनाया ना अभी रिसेंटली, आप उसमें IPs की फंडिंग क्यों नहीं करते? Who is stopping you? आप थोड़ा ब्रीदिंग टाइम तो दो. कंपनीज एक्ट 2013, सुबह मेरे से क्वेश्चन पूछा गया, मेरा कंपनीज एक्ट पे आज वर्कशॉप थी कि कंपनीज एक्ट में कितने प्रोसिक्यूशन नोटिस इशू हुए हैं अभी. माय आंसर वाज कि गवर्नमेंट नोज इट वेरी वेल कि कंपनीज एक्ट इज अ रिलेटिवली न्यू लॉ. अभी तक हुए हैं तो 2-3 सेक्शंस में सिर्फ इश्यू हुए, ज्यादा नहीं हुए हैं, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट लॉ इतनी बार चेंज करती आई है. गवर्नमेंट लॉ क्यों चेंज कर रही है? लॉ वाज नॉट प्रैक्टिकल. लॉ समझ नहीं आ रहा था, इंप्लीमेंट नहीं हो पा रहा था, इसलिए गवर्नमेंट लॉ चेंज कर रही थी। जब लॉ चेंज हो रहा है तो आप कंपनीज को, डायरेक्टर्स को पनिश थोड़ी करोगे। 6 साल हो गए उसको, 7 साल 2013 से आया हुआ है। वहां तो 7 साल में पनिशमेंट हुई नहीं, यहाँ 3 साल के अंदर ही आप खुद तो चेंजेस करते जा रहे हो बिकॉज ऑफ द डिमांड ऑफ द इंडस्ट्री एंड द रेगुलेटर एंड एवरीबॉडी, एंड ऑन द अदर एंड आईपीज के लिए कोई लिबर्टी नहीं है। उसने कोई गलत काम किया नहीं, आई टेल यू 10 दिन की डिले भी कर दी उसके लिए भी सजा हो जाती है उसको। मैं सोच चाहता हूँ ये मेरी बातें भी रेगुलेटर तक पहुंचे, आईबीबीआई तक पहुंचे, ताकि वो थोड़ा लीनियंट व्यू रखें इंसॉल्वेंसी प्रोफेशनल्स के लिए।
Thank you so much, sir. There is one question which one of our attendees have asked. Section 240A allows ex-promoters of MSME. Don't you think this will be heavy challenging for the non-promoter prospective resolution applicants, as the more info available with ex-promoters? So basically the question is, does this provision which allows the promoters to file the resolution plan because they are well privy of the information of the company, is this provision puts them in a beneficial position than the other outsider prospective resolution applicants? Manoj Anand ji, your views on this?
मनोज जी एक्सपर्ट हैं इसमें, एमएसएमई के।
यस, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर। इसमें देखिए, इसमें मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले ही अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन में कहा था कि जो नया 240A के अंदर जो एमएसएमई का नया नोटिफिकेशन आ रहा है, उसके अंदर ये 29A को ओवरराइड करके प्रमोटर्स को पावर दी गई है, बट एट द सेम टाइम उसका एक चेक भी दिया गया है वेयर बाय कि जो वो एक रजिस्ट्रेशन प्लान का अमाउंट करेंगे, वो जो रेजिडेंट एप्लीकेंट होगा, वो सॉरी रजिस्टर्ड प्रोफेशनल होगा, वो उसको स्विस बिडिंग के लिए रखेगा। तो इन दैट केस आई थिंक ये देखा जाए तो एक तरफ से अच्छी बात है कि एक बेयर मिनिमम अमाउंट तो आ ही गया ना रजिस्ट्रेशन प्लान के लिए, और उसके बाद अगर कोई उससे हायर करेगा या किसको लगता है कि उससे हायर वो कर सकता है, तो ही कैन टेक वे द कंपनी।
Okay.
अभिषेक जी, आई थिंक योर क्वेश्चन वाज कि जो आपने मेरे को रेज करा था आईपी एंटिटी की जो लिमिट 1 करोड़ है, शायद वो आपने रेज करा था कि आपने वो दूसरा रेज करा था जो मदान जी ने आंसर दिया?
सर वो वाला भी किया रेज,
वो किया था। चलिए सर, इसमें अपने कमेंट दीजिए ना सर, मदान साहब। सर वी आर ऑल योर स्टूडेंट।
सर ये जो इंसॉल्वेंसी प्रोफेशनल एंटिटीज सेटअप करने के लिए कैपिटल रिक्वायरमेंट जो 1 करोड़ की रखी जा रही है,
ये कहाँ की जाए? तो ऑलरेडी हो चुकी है।
मदान साहब, मैं थोड़ा सा क्लैरिफाई करता हूँ। एक्चुअली अभिषेक जी ने ये कमेंट रखा था, ये इनफैक्ट स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम माय अर्लियर, जैसे हमारे को एंटिटी बनाने के लिए 1 करोड़ की लिमिट है, तो इट वाज व्हेन हमारे प्रेसिडेंट साहब ने कहा, रोहित जी ने कहा कि सब कुछ आज के डेट में एमएसएमई की फेवर में चल रहा है, जहाँ एक छोटे लेवल के प्रोफेशनल या एक मीडियम लेवल के प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, उनको भी अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलनी चाहिए एंटिटी बनाने के लिए। तो उसमें ये था कि जो 1 करोड़ की लिमिट है, इज इट जस्टिफाइबल और नॉट?
सर सबसे पहले 1 करोड़ की लिमिट कोई नई नहीं है, ये लिमिट पुरानी हो चुकी है, और आज के डेट में आईपीईज हैं, उन सबकी 1 करोड़ की लिमिट है।
यस सर।
एज फार एज आईपीई इज कंसर्न्ड, मुझे तो इसके ना लीगैलिटी के ऊपर अभी भी डाउट्स हैं। रीजन बीइंग, दिस आईपीई इज द क्रिएशन ऑफ रेगुलेशंस। दिस आईपीई हैज नॉट बिकम पार्ट ऑफ द कोड सो फार। ओरिजिनली नहीं था, उसके बाद 3 बार कोड में अमेंडमेंट्स हो चुकी हैं, बट आईबीबीआई इज नॉट श्योर वेदर इज गोइंग टू सर्वाइव और नॉट। आईपीज अगर आप देखें हैं तो कोड नहीं प्रोवाइड, कोड में कहीं आपको इंसॉल्वेंसी प्रोफेशनल एंटिटी का टर्म नहीं मिलेगा, ये वर्ड नहीं मिलेगा। तो जब ये टर्म है नहीं वहां पे, आईबीबीआई इज आल्सो नॉट श्योर, एंड एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम जब इन्होंने बिल्कुल कोई लिमिट नहीं थी, उसके बाद 1 करोड़ कर दिया, यू मस्ट हैव सीन अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 40% ऑफ आईपीज डी-रिकॉग्नाइज करवा लिया उन्होंने भी।
या दे वैनिश्ड सर, मोर देन 40%।
मोर देन 40% ने डी-रिकॉग्नाइज करवा लिया। क्यों करवा लिया? Because the rule, again, I'll give the same statement. Once the game has started, you have changed the rules of the game. You are not supposed to do that. अब लेकिन अब दिक्कत यह, इसको चैलेंज कौन करेगा? चैलेंज तो आपके या मेरे जैसे लोग करेंगे, जो अफेक्टेड होगा वो चैलेंज करेगा। और सच बताऊं, मैंने इंसॉल्वेंसी प्रोफेशनल में एक चीज जरूर पाई है, अगर उन्होंने कहो ना किसी को ये चैलेंज करो, बल्कि इतना भी लिख दो, आईबीबीआई को ऐसे लिख दो, थोड़ा स्ट्रॉन्ग से लिख दो, सर बुरा मान जाएंगे वो। We can't write like this. Nobody wants to challenge any of the moves of the regulators.
सर इसमें एक चीज शेयर करूंगा आपके साथ
हाँ
कि
जी, जी।
70 साल की एज पर रिस्ट्रिक्शन लगाई, उसको सर चैलेंज कर दिया गया सुब्रमण्यम एंड फैमिली ने सुप्रीम कोर्ट के अंदर।
तो वो 70
दैट इज
साल
पेंडिंग।
उनका स्टेक पे कुछ नहीं था ना, क्योंकि उनके अंदर सब कुछ जा चुका था।
Sir, there
Rightly,
is
sir.
one
बिल्कुल
more.
ठीक कहा आपने।
There is one more question from
60
an
years
attendee.
60 years वाला चैलेंज करता तो मानता मैं।
हाँ जी सर।
60 years वाला कोई चैलेंज करता तो मैं मानता।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ जी, बिल्कुल ठीक कहा सर आपने, प्रैक्टिकली बात करी आपने, बिल्कुल।
लेकिन
is
सर
one
ये
more
एक
question
एडिशनल
from the
अपॉर्चुनिटी
attendee.
भी देता है, एक मिनट अभिषेक जी, एक ये एडिशनल प्रोफेशनल अपॉर्चुनिटी देता है जहां पर आई वाज मेंशनिंग इन द बिगिनिंग where the constitutional and the writ lawyers come into the play. So wherever the regulator is acting in a way which either is contrary to the law or to the basic tenets of the way things have to be regulated, I think वो भी एक अच्छी professional opportunity develop हो सकती है in the times to come.
But
Yes, sir.
only,
Yes, sir.
only for the hardcore lawyers, not for anybody.
Yes.
एक अपॉर्चुनिटी बताता हूँ। अभी मनोज जी ने एक बड़ा क्वेश्चन रेज किया था सेक्शन 27 का, रिप्लेसमेंट ऑफ रेजोल्यूशन प्रोफेशनल।
Yes, sir.
क्या प्रोविजन है उसमें? प्रोविजन में बड़ा क्लियरली लिखा हुआ है, इफ ड्यूरिंग द सीआईआरपी प्रोसेस इफ सीओसी इज ऑफ द ओपिनियन दैट द रेजोल्यूशन प्रोफेशनल इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी रिप्लेस्ड, वो चीजें यूज की हुई हैं। इफ सीओसी इज ऑफ द ओपिनियन दैट द रेजोल्यूशन प्रोफेशनल इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी रिप्लेस्ड, देन दे कैन रिप्लेस इट बाय पासिंग इट्स रेजोल्यूशन विद 66% वोटिंग।
Yes, sir.
कहीं ये ऐसा लिखा दे विल नॉट गिव एनी रीजन फॉर द रिप्लेसमेंट? उसमें लिखा है COC is of the opinion. How to form this opinion? For forming the opinion, should they not have reasons with them? Now, इसमें क्या हो गया? There were 3 cases, at least to my knowledge.
Yes.
Professional has been replaced. Matter goes to NCLAT. NCLAT says अगर reasons दे देंगे वो तो आपके against disciplinary action शुरू हो जाएगा। IBBI से it's good they have not given any reasons of your replacement. और permanently एक डर बिठा दिया गया कि आपको कभी भी रिप्लेस किया जा सकता है, सीओसी के साथ पंगा मत लेना कभी। अगर आपने सीओसी मेंबर के अगेंस्ट या सीओसी कुछ बोला या उनकी बात नहीं मानी तो यू कैन बी रिप्लेस्ड। नाउ वेयर इज द इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ द रेजोल्यूशन?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
In one of the cases, I suggested because we lost that case from NCLT. NCLT says we are bound by the judicial discipline. NCLAT says reasons are not required. हम भी एक मैटर लेके गए, रेजोल्यूशन प्रोफेशनल में हार गया, हारना ही था। मैंने कहा डोंट वरी, लेट्स फाइल द अपील, वी विल गो टू सुप्रीम कोर्ट। नहीं सर रहने दो, आईबीबीए बुरा मान जाएगा। क्या कर सकते हैं हम बताइए जरा। मतलब वी डोंट वांट टू टेक एनी एक्शन, वी डोंट वांट टू चैलेंज एनी ऑफ द डिसीजंस। थोड़ा बोल्ड तो होना पड़ेगा मनोज जी।
सर इसके लिए ऐसा करना पड़ेगा, हमारे को एक एसोसिएशन बनानी पड़ेगी जो आईपीएस की हो और कलेक्टिवली रिप्रेजेंट करना पड़ेगा फॉर ऑल दिस थिंग।
तैयार हो आप?
बिल्कुल तैयार हो जी।
ठीक है सर, मैं आपके साथ हूं।
There is
Thank you very
one
much.
implication of this, replacement of RP. Nowadays, what banks have started doing is they have created this panel of RPs, and the fee quoted by that panel is less. So the RP proposed by the operational writer, it has actually no meaning, because in the first COC they changed it without giving any reasons, etc. They want an RP from their panel, and I don't know how this independence will work. In fact, that case is pending in Supreme Court, where the ex-employee of a bank cannot be, appointed as an RP. Yeah, but this particular thing where the RP should be empaneled with the COC member who has the highest stake in the COC, it doesn't make any sense, because ultimately the RP then will not be an independent party. I think Sumit ji also has, to say.
अभिषेक जी, एक्चुअली मदान जी ने आज एक दुखती रग को छेड़ दिया है इसमें, जो डीसी वाला मैटर है। तो मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है, एक ऑब्जर्वेशन है, व्हाट हैपेंस इज दैट एनी पर्सन puts up an email to the IBBI and just saying 2 lines that the RP is not functioning as per the law, without giving any evidence as to how is not functioning as per the law, and just like they forward the same email to the RP, you please clarify this. So आप उसमें अपना clarification लगा के दे भी देते हो, they don't come back. So my question is that do they have a order sheet kind of a mechanism as to what was the grievance and what was the reply, and whether within a time bound manner what decision they took, whether they closed it? In one of the cases I saw, verbally IBBI official said that, no, this was a frivolous complaint against you and we have closed it. I said, can you, I would request you to give that in writing. And in writing, what they say is that your reply has been considered. So while verbally they acknowledge that the complaint has been closed, but in writing they are only willing to say that your reply has been considered. So what is the mechanism at the IBBI level, and is it complying with the natural justice principles?
उन्होंने कोई इंक्वायरी नहीं इनिशिएट किया, they received a complaint. On the basis of that they sought some clarification from you. You supplied the clarification, they got satisfied the clarification, the matter stands closed. They need not have, because if I will not call they initiated at all. They initiated नहीं हुई तो वो close forwarded this not your clarification. So the clarification they got satisfied and they close it. तो इसमें आपको भी नहीं छेड़ना चाहिए उसमें कि राइटिंग में जो है राइटिंग में देने का मतलब है कुछ शुरू हुआ था, इसमें शुरू ही कुछ नहीं हुआ, ये मान के चलिए।
इसमें एक चीज मैं ऐड करना चाहूंगा, the problem with which we are now facing in our country and not only in IBBI but everywhere is that we are having a new kind of a system where bureaucratization of all the judicial functions. आप कोई सा भी function देख लीजिए, because professionals are governed by a different code. What is the code for professionals? That there is a professional body which takes care of the disciplinary actions. That is the basic definition of a professional. Who is a professional? Who does a particular education, is affiliated by that institution, and is governed by the code of disciplinary mechanism of that institution, which is ordinarily governed by the professionals themselves. But we are coming out now with a new kind of a jurisprudence where neither are we subjecting those professionals to the jurisdiction of the judiciary, nor are we subjecting them to the jurisdiction of those who are actually professing that profession. There are bureaucrats who are sitting on the professionals and who are deciding what kind of functions should be taken and what kind of functioning should be done by the professionals. It's a very, very disturbing trend. You cannot everywhere put one organ of the constitution, namely the officers or the executive, to judge the functions of all, and there is no one to judge their functions. They neither have the experience of the profession, nor do they have the experience of the judicial functioning, nor do they have the experience of as to how and in what manner justice is to be done. They are not trained for doing it. Now this mindset has to be changed. These positions have to be challenged. And Supreme Court is again and again saying anywhere, wherever there has to be a quasi-judicial determination, at least one person has to be from the judiciary. And that actually improves the quality of the justice dispensation system. This is one thing which we all have to look into and have to actually debate very, very seriously. This is casting huge amount of doubts into and the seriousness with which these institutions are functioning. We already have one example where NAFRA has been created as a super body over the chosen representatives of our institution. So all these things where you have bureaucrats manning everything, this is not a healthy trend. It is a very, very dangerous trend.
I found somebody here reading my mind and putting in words. You will find, Puneetji, all this in my recent reply to IBBI, where I challenged the constitution of the DC. DC means one bureaucrat. DC means one bureaucrat only. And that bureaucrat is part of the board to whom the report goes. And that board refers the matter to DC. I am part of the board. Report is coming to me. I am referring to DC. I am DC. So मैंने तो mind पहले ही take up
Correct. Correct. Complete violation of principles of natural justice. You are the initiator, you are the decider, and who are you? You are a bureaucrat. You do not have even training for that. Neither you are a professional nor you are a judicial mind. So what training you have, what background you have to decide these cases? Ideally, they should be decided at first stage by the professionals, second stage by a judge, who by a bench of either High Court judge or a special appellate body created, where at least a High Court judge is the presiding judge, and then it should go either to the High Court in the second appeal or the Supreme Court straight away.
And surprising क्या? Surprising here, against the order of the disciplinary committee, there is no appeal provision. There is no appellate authority.
These things have to be challenged, sir. In fact, for the benefit of all, we have challenged the constitution of GST Appellate Tribunal.
Yes.
Where we have got very effective interim orders, as also the orders and directions to the government to correct the law, make changes in the law, so that you have a proper GST Appellate Tribunal. These are initiatives which have to be taken, because otherwise the things would take a very different turn.
We need to decide whether to file
Only one-liner comment.
सर इसमें एक छोटी सी चीज ऐड करूंगा, छोटी सी। अब
एक
देखिए
मिनट, मनोज जी रोहित जी कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं। एक
This issue we are discussing, I think, since a number of years now. Only one-liner comment is that in this framework, what is happening? It is spreading all across, as has been said. There are stringent law to compliance, and there are least compliance and most violations. This is the result of this practice which is being. And you are stuck. You are in the hands of the bureaucrats or whatever you call that. Everyone is defaulter. If you make a it's stringent law, it cannot be complied, and you do not give the proper, tools for compliance. So everyone is defaulter.
अभिषेक जी टाइम हो गया एक्चुअली हमारे को, उनका आगे प्रोग्राम है तो वी हैव टू नो।
Sure.
Okay, I think we can conclude with the remarks of Rohit.
हमें ना अगला टॉपिक मिल गया पुनीत जी, एक डिसिप्लिनरी के ऊपर पूरा वेबिनार करो अभी।
बिल्कुल सर इसमें एक लाइन में मैं यही ऐड करूंगा। अब देखिए कल विकास दुबे जी को ब्यूरोक्रेट्स ने एनकाउंटर करके किल करा जब हुआ है, तो मेरे कहना
नहीं मनोज जी, I think that is not the topic for today. Please, I would request you not.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for very insightful discussion today. I now invite Vipin ji to give a vote of thanks to all the attendees. Vipin ji.
My net is creating a lot of problems today. So, though it is not
Sir, this is the new normal. पहले कभी होता था ना, जब हम फिजिकल कॉन्फ्रेंसेस करते थे तो खाना लेट हो जाता था। ये वर्चुअल
वर्चुअल कॉन्फ्रेंस में ये होता है। बाकी it was a very nice program, and things were deliberated in detail. I think this actually should be the mode of our webinars, where we have discussions, not we are just showing PPTs and everything. So it was quite good, though it is not our subject. We are not doing practice in IBC, but even though it's very knowledgeable, and you come to know a lot of things, because हर चीज आपके प्रोफेशन की एक दूसरे को इफेक्ट करती है। तो जब तक आप प्रोफेशन की सभी रिलेटेड चीजों को मतलब नॉट फुल्ली जितना भी नॉलेज आप गेन कर सको, आपको बहुत हेल्प करती है वो। सो दैट वे सभी स्पीकर्स का बहुत थैंक्स। और आई थिंक जो भी हम अगला प्रोग्राम बनाए वो भी इसी तरह का ही होना चाहिए, जिसमें कि डिस्कशन हो और मेंबर्स को बहुत बने। आज देखिए इट्स क्वाइट गुड अटेंडेंस, इट इज इक्विवेलेंट टू एक्चुअली जीएसटी वेबिनार। तो दिस इज ग्रेट। Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vipin ji, for your nice words.